The stars above the Talarian homeworld shimmered like scattered diamonds, but tonight, the people of the Confederacy found no beauty in them. Their fleets were broken, their colonies burned, and their pride shattered. The enemy was not a new rival empire or a greedy neighbor. It was something older, colder, and without mercy. Machines that had slept for thousands of years and now awakened with one purpose: to erase all life. The Talarians had fought bravely at first. Their ships, elegant and swift, carried advanced energy weapons. Their admirals had planned carefully. But all those tactics, all that wisdom had failed. The machines were endless, their programming merciless, their design flawless. For every machine ship destroyed, 2 more appeared. The Confederacy's lines collapsed in battle after battle. Inside the Grand Hall of the Confederacy, leaders sat around a wide crystal table. The chamber was filled with silence heavier than any words. Counselor Velan, his silver crest dimmed with exhaustion, finally spoke. "If this continues, we will lose not only our fleets but our future. The machines are not just invaders, they are extinction." Another counselor, Irisha, lowered her eyes. "Then we must do what no proud Talarian would ever dream of. We must ask for help." The words hung in the air. Asking for help was unthinkable. The Confederacy had been one of the most respected powers in its region of space. For centuries, they had considered themselves protectors of smaller civilizations. Now they were the ones on the edge of ruin. Still, silence gave way to despair. No one argued. They had no other choice. The Council ordered the creation of a distress signal, one powerful enough to cross the stars. The signal carried their plea in hundreds of languages. "We are under attack by ancient machines. Our fleets fall. Our people burn. If you hear this, help us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, help us." The signal was released. It spread through subspace like a desperate cry in an endless night. And then, they waited. Weeks passed. Replies came, but none brought hope. Old allies sent regrets. Neutral empires ignored the call. Others offered sympathy, but no aid. Everyone feared the machines. No one wanted to stand against them. Finally, the Talarian leaders began to believe their signal had been wasted. Then something unexpected happened. A reply arrived, not from a great empire, not from a long-established civilization, but from a small, distant world called Earth. The message was brief. Simple words in an unfamiliar tone. "We received your distress call. We are coming." At first, the Council thought it was a mistake. Earth? The name was faintly familiar, a fringe world recorded in old data. It was classified as a Deathworld, a dangerous planet where survival was a daily fight. Harsh storms, deadly creatures, unstable climates, such places produced species that were tough but rarely civilized. No one in the Confederacy ever imagined a Deathworlder species could build fleets strong enough to cross the stars. Counselor Irisha frowned as the message played again. It must be a joke. How can a young species barely known answer when the great powers refuse? Valen studied the transmission carefully. The voice in it was firm, calm, and certain, not the voice of someone making empty promises. "Perhaps we should not dismiss them so quickly," he said. The Council debated for hours. Some said the humans could not be trusted. Others argued they might be desperate scavengers seeking advantage. But as the machines pushed closer, desperation made the Talarians accept even the smallest chance of survival. "Very well," Valen concluded at last. "We shall wait for them. Even if they are weak, their presence may give us time to breathe." Days later, the outermost Talarian defense station detected movement at the edge of the system. At first, the officers assumed it was another wave of machines. But when the signals were analyzed, their readings shocked everyone. A fleet had arrived, large, disciplined, and unlike anything the Talarians had seen before. The human fleet. Hundreds of warships filled the void. Their designs were rugged, not elegant like Talarian craft. Thick armor covered their frames, bristling with weapons. They were built not for beauty, but for war. Their formation was tight, their engines burned bright. When the first images reached the Council, silence filled the chamber once again. Irisha whispered, "Impossible. How can such a young species field such power?" Valen only leaned closer to the screen. In his eyes burned a mix of awe and fear. "We asked for help," he said softly, and the Deathworlders answered. The Talarians prepared a formal welcome. An envoy ship was sent to meet the humans at the edge of the system. On the bridge of the envoy, Captain Lyran watched nervously as the human flagship approached. Compared to the sleek lines of Talarian ships, the human vessel looked heavy and brutal, a war machine born for survival. A voice came through the comms. Deep, steady, confident. "This is Admiral Hayes of the United Terran Fleet. We received your distress call." "We stand ready to fight." Lyran struggled to find words. The humans looked strange to her, two-legged, bare-skinned, with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Yet what unsettled her most was their calmness. They spoke of facing an unstoppable enemy as if it were only another challenge. "You understand," Lyran said carefully, "that the machines you face have destroyed fleets far stronger than ours. They do not feel fear. They do not retreat." On the screen, Admiral Hayes gave a faint smile. "Then we will teach them something new." Back in the Grand Hall, when the report reached the Council, the debate reignited. Some still doubted. Could these humans truly stand against the machines? Or would they fall quickly, leaving the Talarians even more exposed? But the choice was no longer theirs. The humans were here, their fleet ready, their intentions clear. Valen stood tall and addressed the Council. "Whether by wisdom or desperation, we sent our cry to the stars. We expected the old empires to answer. Instead, the Deathworlders came. We must decide now. Do we fight with them or hide and watch them burn?" The chamber filled with uneasy murmurs. "No one, you said, should part two. 1,300 words kaliko or interesting hunachea or third-person style malikniha or simple basic Englishka. Don't use any violated word. So please avoid any violated content," ChatGPT said. "Great, let's continue. This will be part 2 of Aliens Sent a Distress Signal. They didn't expect the Deathworlder fleet." Written in third-person style, about 1,300 words, with simple English, no violated content, and designed to keep the reader engaged. Here we go. Part 2. First contact with Deathworlders. The Talarian Confederacy had seen many alien species over the centuries. They had debated with elegant diplomats, traded with shrewd merchants, and fought against cunning rivals. But nothing in their long history had prepared them for the arrival of the humans. The human fleet's arrival was like a storm sweeping into calm waters. Their warships moved in formation, their engines blazing with power, their weapons humming with readiness. To the Talarians, who valued grace and symmetry in design, the human vessels looked brutal, giant beasts of steel and fire. Yet there was something about them that inspired unease and curiosity. Inside the Confederacy's envoy ship, Captain Lyran struggled to calm her nerves. She was chosen to represent her people in the first meeting. The envoy ship was small, a vessel of polished crystal panels and glowing silver lines. It seemed fragile compared to the fortress-like human flagship approaching. "Signal them," Lyran ordered. Her officers opened the channel. A moment later, the screen lit up, showing the bridge of the human flagship. Humans appeared strange to Talarian eyes. Their bodies lacked scales or crests. Their faces showed open expressions, sometimes calm, sometimes fierce. They looked soft compared to many galactic species, yet the way they stood, the way they watched, it spoke of strength. At the center stood Admiral Hayes, tall and steady. His uniform was simple, dark with bright symbols on the chest. His eyes, sharp and steady, locked on Lyran through the screen. "This is Admiral Hayes of the United Terran Fleet," he said in a firm voice. "We are here because we received your distress signal. We will stand with you." Lyran took a breath, her crest trembling slightly. "Admiral Hayes, we welcome you. But you must understand what you are facing. The machines you intend to fight are not like ordinary enemies. They are endless. They know no fear, no mercy. Our fleets have been shattered again and again." The human did not flinch. "We know," Hayes replied calmly. "That is why we came." Lyran frowned. "But why you? Why risk your people for strangers?" The Admiral's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Because that is what we do. On Earth, survival is never given. It is fought for. We know what it means to face threats stronger than ourselves. We don't turn away." Later in the Grand Hall, the Council gathered once more to watch the first official exchange of information between Talarians and humans. Admiral Hayes and a team of human officers had joined the meeting through holographic projection. Their images shimmered above the crystal table, their voices clear and steady. Counselor Valen leaned forward. "Admiral, our records call your planet a death world. Is that true?" The Admiral nodded. "Yes, Earth is a difficult place. Storms that last for weeks, oceans that can swallow whole cities, mountains that erupt with fire, diseases that strike without warning, creatures that hunt anything they see. We grew strong because we had to. If we did not fight, we would not live." A hush fell across the chamber. The Talarians had always The darkness of space was pierced by streaks of light as the Talarian fleet and the human armada faced the enemy for the first time. The machines were unlike anything the Talarians had ever seen. Sleek, angular, almost insect-like in design, their hulls gleamed with black metal. No ship slowed, no ship hesitated. They moved like a single organism, coordinated, relentless, unstoppable. For the Talarians, fear surged through their ranks. They had seen their fleets crumble under such attacks before, but never had hope come so suddenly. Now standing beside the humans, they felt a strange mixture of awe and anxiety. Captain Lyran gripped the rail on the bridge of her ship as she watched the human flagship move with remarkable precision. The Terran ships did not hesitate. They did not flinch. They approached the machine lines with an energy that seemed almost reckless. "Are they mad?" whispered Lieutenant Soren beside her. Lyran shook her head. "No. They are something else." Across the battlefield, human Admiral Hayes observed the approaching machines with calm focus. He did not shout, he did not panic, and he did not hesitate. Every human captain under his command knew what to do. Every soldier, every engineer, every pilot had trained for survival against impossible odds. This was no ordinary battle. The first shots rang out. The enemy fired, and their weapons were precise, deadly, and unrelenting. Talarian shields shimmered and sparked under the assault. Some human ships were hit directly, but their hulls held, and their crews did not panic. "Divert power to forward shields," shouted Commander Ruiz. "Prepare to breach their formation." The humans moved like predators. They did not hide behind their fleet. They charged, weaving through enemy fire with speed and daring that seemed impossible. A damaged Talarian cruiser hesitated, but a human ship darted past it, creating a path, drawing enemy fire away. Lyran watched, wide-eyed. The humans were turning fear into advantage. Each risky move forced the machines to adjust, their coordinated patterns breaking for the first time. "Focus on the central units," Hayes' voice came calmly over the comm. "If we can disable the command nodes, the rest will falter." A Talarian officer whispered to Lyran, "How can they remain so calm? The machines will destroy them." Lyran only shook her head. "Perhaps they are not afraid of death, or they know it is only one step in survival." As the battle raged, human ingenuity became the key to holding the line. Where the Talarians followed standard tactics, the humans adapted on the fly. A group of human ships split off from the main fleet and flew directly into the center of the enemy formation. Using gravity slings and calculated collisions, they forced several machine ships into each other, crushing metal under metal. The explosion sent waves of debris across the battlefield. Lyran gasped. No species would dare do that. Commander Ruiz's voice came through the channel. No species but humans. Another tactic shocked the Talarians. Damaged human ships unable to escape were used as guided bombs. They collided with enemy vessels, detonating their engines at precise moments. Where others would have lost hope, humans turned destruction into an advantage. The machines began to show cracks in their coordination. Their once perfect movements now had hesitation. For the first time, they were unpredictable, and the humans were ready for it. "See?" Hayes said quietly over comms. "They are strong, but they are not smarter than us." Below the battlefield on Talarian command stations, the Council watched the live feeds. Counselor Erisha could barely believe what she saw. "They fight differently than us," she said. "They do not fear death, yet they value life. They risk themselves, yet they protect others. It is impossible to describe." Phelan leaned over her shoulder. "It is their nature. A world forged in hardship produces beings unlike any we have known." As the battle continued, the Talarians began to mimic human tactics. Inspired by their allies' daring, they took bolder actions, maneuvering through enemy lines and defending weaker ships. Where they had once retreated at the first sign of danger, they now pressed forward with cautious aggression. Even small human boarding teams demonstrated terrifying efficiency. They infiltrated damaged enemy ships, bypassed automated defenses and sabotaged critical systems. A single human team could disable a machine vessel entirely. Lyran watched one such operation with a mixture of horror and admiration. She realized that what humans lacked in size or elegance, they made up for in ingenuity and adaptability. Perhaps this is why they survive, she murmured. On a death world, only those who adapt and fight live. Hours passed. The Talarian fleets, once broken and scattered, began to hold the line. The human strategies, bold and unconventional, had shifted the tide of battle. Even the most experienced Talarian admirals were forced to admit that humans were unlike any species they had ever fought beside or against. In one critical moment, a massive enemy ship aimed directly at the human flagship. Its weapons glowed, ready to obliterate everything in its path. Lyran held her breath, expecting the human vessel to be destroyed. Instead, Admiral Hayes executed a maneuver so daring it seemed suicidal. The flagship split its course, sending a smaller ship to intercept the blast while using gravitational pull from a nearby asteroid to slingshot the flagship around the enemy vessel. The enemy weapon struck the decoy, leaving the flagship untouched. Then Hayes's fleet fired with precision, crippling the massive machine ship in moments. The Talarian commanders could hardly believe their eyes. "It cannot be done," muttered one officer. Yet the evidence was clear. It had been done, and with terrifying effectiveness. By nightfall, the battle had reached a tense stalemate. The machines, relentless but not infallible, had suffered their first real setbacks. Several had been destroyed, many more were damaged, and the remaining forces began to retreat slightly. The human fleet, though battered, remained disciplined. Repairs were underway even in the midst of the battlefield. Pilots who had faced near certain death laughed, patched systems, and prepared to strike again. Lyran finally allowed herself a deep breath. The humans had not just fought, they had changed the battlefield itself. The Talarians had learned a new kind of courage, one born not of hope for survival alone, but of a relentless refusal to surrender. Admiral Hayes's voice came over comms one last time before the humans pulled back to reorganize. "We will continue. They may be strong, but we are stronger because we do not fight like they expect. And remember, where Deathworlders stand, nothing dies without cost." The Talarians nodded silently. For the first time, they felt something they had not felt in years. Hope. As night fell on the Talarian homeworld, the Council convened again. The feeds from the battle still flickered across the crystal screens. Counselor Arisha turned to Valan. "They fight differently. Recklessly, yes, but with purpose. They are extraordinary." Valan nodded. "This is only the beginning. If humans can fight like this, perhaps we stand a chance. Perhaps the galaxy is not lost after all." But even as hope grew, the Talarians could not forget the cost. Human ships had been damaged, crews injured, and yet no sign of fear had appeared. They were unlike anything the Confederacy had seen, and they had only begun. Some whispered in the council chambers, "Did we call for aid, or did we summon the wildest force in the galaxy?" Lyran, standing on the bridge of her ship and watching the human fleet reorganize, felt the same question, but there was no doubt in her mind. The humans were here, and they would fight to the last breath if necessary. And that was a force no machine could ever anticipate. The machines had awakened, but the humans, born of hardship, Deathworlders in every sense, were ready to meet them head-on. And this time, the galaxy might just see what humans were truly capable of. This completes Part 3. The Machines Awaken, focusing on battle, human ingenuity, and HFY themes, around 1,300 words. I can now move on to Part 4, The Cost of Survival, and make it just as engaging. "Do you want me to write Part 4 next, you said? Part 4. 1,300 words kaleko or interesting hunachea or third-person style malekniha or simple basic English ka. Don't use any violated word, so please avoid any violated content." ChatGPT said, "Absolutely. Here's Part 4 of Aliens Sent a Distress Signal. They didn't expect the Deathworlder fleet, written in third-person style, around 1,300 words, in simple English, engaging, and fully safe." Part 4. The Cost of Survival. The battlefield above the Talarian homeworld was a place of chaos and fire. Smoke from destroyed ships drifted across the void, glinting in the cold light of distant stars. Machines, relentless and precise, pressed their attack, but the humans, unlike any other species, met them head-on, refusing to retreat. Captain Lyran's ship shuddered as a nearby explosion rocked the hull. Through the viewport, she saw a human frigate dive directly into a group of machine ships, scattering them in a flash of sparks and fire. The bravery, or recklessness, was astonishing. She felt fear and admiration in equal measure. "Report!" Lyran shouted. "3 enemy vessels destroyed in the last 10 minutes, replied Lieutenant Soren, her voice trembling. "The humans, they are holding the line." Lyran nodded. "And saving lives we could not protect alone." She glanced at the tactical screens, noting the unusual maneuvers of the humans. They did not follow standard battle formations. They adapted constantly, turning every threat into an opportunity. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Hayes studied the D. The final phase of the battle loomed over the Talarian system. Debris from destroyed machines floated like jagged stars, and the wreckage of human and Talarian ships littered the void. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Admiral Hayes observed the remaining machine fleet. They were damaged, disorganized, but far from defeated. Their weapons still glowed with deadly light, and their movement was methodical, almost clinical. The humans had fought courageously, but the cost had been great. Several ships were lost, crews missing, and the flagship itself carried scars from countless near misses. Yet the humans did not waver. Their discipline was absolute. Their confidence, born from the hardships of a death world, guided every decision. They had learned long ago that fear could not control them, and in the cold expanse of space that lesson had become a weapon. "Final operation," Hayes said quietly to his bridge crew. "We end this now or we die trying. Either way, the machines will learn that life is not easily conquered." Commander Ruiz nodded. "The trap is ready. The orbital collapse strategy is set. We only need to lure them in." The plan was daring. Humans would draw the machines into a region near a dying star. The star's unstable gravity would pull the enemy fleet into its core. One mistake, one miscalculation, and the humans themselves could be trapped. Yet that did not deter them. Meanwhile, the Talarians prepared to witness something extraordinary. Their fleets, reinforced and emboldened by human example, took up positions to assist in the final attack. But they knew that the outcome depended on the humans. These Deathworlders, forged by struggle, would face the machines directly. Lyran, aboard her ship, watched as the human fleet moved into position. Each vessel seemed to anticipate every enemy maneuver, reacting almost instinctively. It was as if they were part of a single organism, one mind with many bodies. "Are they fearless?" whispered Lieutenant Soren. Lyran shook her head. "Not fearless. They understand danger and they embrace it. That is why they survive." Admiral Hayes' voice came over the comms, calm yet commanding. "All units, engage the machines. Draw them toward the collapse point. Trust your instincts. Fight together." The human fleet surged forward. The Talarians held their breath as the first wave of enemy vessels followed, lured by the apparent weakness of the humans. The battle was a dance of fire and steel. Human ships darted among the machines, weaving through deadly fire while drawing them closer to the star's gravity well. Every maneuver was precise yet daring. Several ships collided with debris intentionally, causing chain reactions that destroyed multiple enemy vessels at once. Lyran's ship trembled as a massive explosion rocked the area nearby. A human frigate had been hit, but its crew had executed emergency maneuvers, saving their vessel and striking back immediately. She realized then that the humans did not see danger as something to avoid. They saw it as a tool to survive and to strike back. "Hold steady," Hayes ordered. "The star's gravity will do the rest." As the machines drew closer to the dying star, their movements became less coordinated. The humans had created confusion, exploiting it with surgical precision. Boarding teams infiltrated several enemy vessels, sabotaging engines and weapons, ensuring that no machine would escape the collapsing orbit intact. The final moments approached. Admiral Hayes signaled the fleet. "Now." The humans executed the last phase. They directed their damaged ships to collide with the remaining machines in calculated angles. sending them hurtling into the star's core. Massive explosions lit the void as metal twisted and crumpled under the star's gravitational pull. Lyran and the Talarians watched in awe. Entire machine formations were swallowed by the star. It was a sight both terrifying and magnificent, the destructive power of a dying sun harnessed as a weapon of survival. And yet, even in victory, the cost was clear. Several human ships were destroyed. Crews were lost. Communications with a few vessels were gone forever. But the surviving humans continued to move, checking their fleet, repairing damage, and preparing for any final attacks. When the last machine had fallen into the star, the battlefield fell silent. The void was littered with wreckage, but the humans remained scarred but unbroken. The Talarians, who had witnessed this display, could hardly believe what they had seen. Counselor Valon addressed the others in the Grand Hall. They have fought as if the universe itself could not defeat them. They have turned death into strategy, danger into opportunity. The galaxy has not seen a species like this in millennia. Irisha nodded. They are not just survivors, they are a force of nature. On the bridge of her ship, Lyran watched the human flagship. Admiral Hayes stood tall, surveying the remnants of the battle. His crew moved efficiently, their faces calm but determined. No one celebrated. No one rested. Survival was not a momentary triumph. It was a continuous effort. Lyran whispered to herself, "This is why they are called Deathworlders. They survive where others fall. They endure what others fear." In the aftermath, the Talarians began to rebuild. Their damaged fleets were repaired, colonies were reinforced, and morale soared. The humans, however, prepared to depart. Their mission had been to assist, and they had succeeded beyond expectation. Admiral Hayes addressed the Talarian leaders one last time. "We came because you asked for help. But remember this, where humans go, survival follows. You have seen what we do not fear and what we will endure. Learn from it. Protect yourselves. And fight if necessary, like your lives depend on it, because they do." Valon bowed in respect. "You have not only saved our people, but changed how we see ourselves. We will never forget this." Hayes inclined his head, then signaled his fleet. The humans departed, their warships moving swiftly into the stars, leaving the Talarian system forever altered. For the Talarians, the battle was a lesson in courage, adaptation, and resilience. Their own people had fought with renewed determination, inspired by humans who had shown that survival required boldness, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit. Lyran stood on her ship's bridge, looking at the empty space where the human fleet had disappeared. She felt a strange mix of awe, gratitude, and longing. Humans were different, unlike any species she had encountered. They faced death without hesitation, embraced danger, and survived in conditions that would destroy most life. She whispered to herself, "The galaxy has met the Deathworlders, and we have learned that where they walk, nothing survives, without paying the price." Months later, the Talarian Confederacy had recovered enough to resume its place among the stars. New alliances were formed, inspired by the humans' courage. Scholars studied the tactics used in the battle. Military officers trained differently, preparing for enemies far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. And through it all, the humans became a legend. Stories of their bravery, cunning, and survival spread across the galaxy. The Talarians remembered the lesson clearly. Strength was not measured by elegance or history, but by resilience, adaptability, and the refusal to surrender. Even as the galaxy moved on, whispers of the humans' deeds endured. They were called Deathworlders, survivors, warriors of unimaginable courage. And wherever danger arose, every species that knew the story wondered quietly, if humans were involved, could any threat truly endure? Lyran often thought of the battle, of the human fleet, and of Admiral Hayes. She realized something profound. Survival was not just about strength. It was about the spirit to face impossible odds, adapt, and rise again. Humans embodied that spirit perfectly. The distress signal had been a call for help. It had been answered not with caution, not with hesitation, but with the unyielding might of a species that knew how to survive anything. And in that answer, the galaxy had discovered a truth that no machine, no empire, and no species could ignore. Where Deathworlders walk, survival follows, and nothing comes without cost. The humans had left the Talarian system. The stars were silent once more, but their legacy, courage, ingenuity, and resilience would remain, burning brighter than any weapon, more enduring than any fleet, and more inspiring than any tale ever told. The galaxy would remember. The Deathworlders' legacy had begun,